Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom's April 2025 release is now available, and looking at the picture, I bet you can guess the theme. Here's a quick look at all of the items included in the April 2025 release. You can always save by purchasing the bundle, but individual products are also available. And if you are interested, I do have links in the description box below. The first item is a stencil set called Fancy Swirl. This is currently the freebie you'll receive if you purchase at least $50 worth of product, and one item must be from the new release. This is for a limited time and while supplies last. Next up is another stencil set called Diamond Gemstone Stencil, and both of the stencil sets include 1-layer stencils. Next is a die set called Stitched Arch Dies. You can never have too many shape die sets, and this is a great new addition. And if you haven't noticed yet, no more snipping dies apart from Jaded Blossom. They have a brand new die manufacturer, so now we get pre-snipped dies. Now this is only on the products they've received from the new manufacturer. Anything they currently have in stock, you still will need to snip the dies. But it's worth it, their die sets are so fun. We have some new Gnome die sets. This one is called Bride and Groom. And I know this was a highly requested set. We have the body of the bride and also the groom. The bride has her beautiful dress with layers. There's a veil. The groom has his top hat and suit. And a fun new addition, there are arms with hands. Usually the gnomes just have the hands, so I love having this new addition. You can always use those arms with other gnome sets. There's also an add-on set. This is wedding add-ons. You open up the bag so you can see all the fun images. It includes a large diamond. There's the ring with the diamond and also just the plain ring band. There's a bouquet of flowers for the bride to hold. There's the jewelry box where you can put the ring inside, so you can have the groom holding that. And there are also bells with a beautiful bow above them. And of course, we do have a new sentiment set with coordinating outline dies. This is Gnome Wedding Day. Jaded Blossom never disappoints with their amazing sentiment sets, and this is a great new addition. I love the sentiment. I now pronounce you Gnomey and Gnomey. Isn't that cute? Flip it over so you can see the actual size of the sentiments. And there are several you could use without the gnomes. We have Happy Wedding Day, and they lived happily ever after, just married, and several other fun wedding sentiments. The last item that's part of the new release is another MDF piece. This coordinates with the brand new Stitched Arch dies. It's the largest size arch. And since it is a fairly large piece, there are 2 stands for the bottom. This is a fun new addition to their MDF pieces. With the large size, you can create different scenes. It's also plenty large enough to feature all the different gnomes and gnome friends. I love using Jaded Blossom's MDF pieces for craft room decor. So that's everything that's included in the release, and if you're interested, I do have links in the description box below. I do have some cards to share with you using the new products. The pattern paper I'm using is from Carta. It's the Floral No. 3 collection, and I have the 12 by 12 size. For the background of my card, selected this lovely floral paper, and this is A2 size, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. Using the new Stitched Arch die, I cut out one of the larger size arches using some purple tone-on-tone polka dot paper. This card will be featuring the lovely bride gnome. I've already die cut out all of the pieces for this card, and I have them stored in the smaller stack and sort trays from scrapbook.com. I'll start off by assembling the gnome bride. For the background piece, this will all be covered up. I used some white cardstock. For her veil and also the dress, I'm using white shimmer cardstock. There is one piece that has the bottom portion of her skirt, but also her chest area. This is one you'll want to use a skin tone cardstock color. The dress area will be covered up with the other layers, but you'll still see that top, chest, and I guess you could say the neck, but you don't really see necks on the gnomes. Using the same skin tone cardstock color, I cut out her head, her nose, and also the arms. You don't see her feet or shoes since she's wearing a very long dress. The bride will be holding a beautiful bouquet of flowers. I used some of the pattern paper from the Floral No. 3 collection. I have 3 purple flowers. The centers I use a light pink pattern paper, and then a green tone-on-tone pattern paper for the stems and also the leaves. For the background piece of the bouquet, I use white cardstock. And this is basically just a guide, that way you know where to add all the individual pieces. I glued down the stems first, then the leaves, and now I'll add the flowers on top. And you can see a little bit of that white background piece, that way you know where to add those individual flowers. You know you have them down correctly if you can't see any of that white cardstock. So now to figure out how to get the bride to hold the bouquet and still have it look like her arms are attached. It's very easy to suddenly have floating hands or floating arms when you're assembling the gnomes. I've attached the gnome's head on that individual piece, and I've put the veil on the background piece, but I haven't added the front area of the gnome on the background yet. Want to make sure to figure out how to attach the arms first. I'll put glue behind her fingers, attach it to the stem so it looks like she's holding the bouquet of flowers. I'll lay this piece on the gnome, and while that glue is still dry, I have a little bit of time to adjust the arms. And I think now I have them in close enough so the top area of her arms sit on the body. But before I attach that down, I need to add the front 2 layers of her dress. I use more of the white shimmer cardstock. And at the very bottom of those 2 layer pieces, I'll curl up the ends, giving the dress more of a dimensional look. Now I'll put glue on the back of the body piece with the skirt and adhere it on the background piece. Next I'll add her hair, and this bride is a redhead. I love this fun new hairstyle that's included in the set. For her nose, I will pop it up using some thin foam dimension. I have scrapbook.com's small foam squares, and I did cut one in half since it is a fairly small nose for the gnomes. This set does include a larger size nose, so you do have the 2 different options. The bride will be wearing a headband with beautiful flowers, and I use pattern paper for all of the pieces except the headband. I use more white shimmer cardstock. For the very background piece, I use white cardstock, and again, this will all be covered up. It's really there as a guide. I'll attach the headband portion first, then the 3 leaves, and there are 3 different flowers. I use a light purple for the largest flower, light pink for the little tulip, and then a darker purple for the small flower. After attaching the 3 individual leaves, I'll add the small tulip, then the smaller flower, and then finally the larger flower. But the flowers can be added in any order, just depends on which one you want in front. You could also pop up some of the flowers with some thin foam dimension. I decided to glue them all down. So once my floral headband is all assembled, give it a little extra press, making sure everything is attached nicely. I'll put barely art glue on the back and adhere it on the gnome. Now I think it would be better to add the headband before the nose. One of the leaves gets really close to her nose, so you just want to make sure it's put up high enough on her hair. And now I'll attach her arms holding the bouquet. Wasn't sure if I wanted it up higher or lower since it does cover up the top of her lovely wedding dress. But I decided that was okay, so I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. The very top flower will sit just slightly in front of her chin. So there's the gnome bride all assembled. Next I'll assemble the bells with the ribbon and bow. For the very background piece, I'm using some light purple cardstock. And for this piece, you will see the two sides of the ribbon. The rest of the area will be covered up. For the bow, I use dark purple cardstock. And there are 3 pieces for the bow. You could use different colored cardstocks, but I decided to go with the same shade. For the bells, there is a background piece. That way you can get them in the correct position. I use white cardstock. And I have 2 shades of sort of a yellow gold cardstock from my stash. It's the same sheet of cardstock, just the front and back. And one side has a pearlescent finish. I use the non-pearlescent for the larger piece, and all you'll see is the inside of the bell. The top of the bell, or the outside of the bell, I use the pearlescent cardstock. And for the little metal piece, the ringer of the bell, I use some gold mirror cardstock. After attaching the outer portion of the bell, I'll nudge those little gold pieces in place, making sure it looks like they're actually coming from the inside of the bell. So now I'll add this piece on the background piece, and then the bow goes on top. And I will pop it up using some foam dimension. I love this pair of bells with the bow and ribbons. I think it would be perfect for Christmas cards. For one of the foam pieces, I'll cut it in half, then I'll remove the release paper, add the purple bow on top. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out Happy Wedding Day, and I cut it out using the coordinating outline die. And with that die, I cut out a second piece, this time from some gold mirror cardstock. I'll adhere the 2 pieces together, offsetting them slightly so you can see some of that gold mirror paper underneath the sentiment and on the left side. Now I'll put foam dimension behind the sentiment and also the bride. Using more foam from scrapbook.com. I have the small and also the large squares in the 1mm thickness. So it'll add just that little bit of dimension, but not make the card super bulky. I haven't attached the stitch arch yet. Wanted to make sure to get placement of all the other die cut pieces first. But now I'll put glue on the back, adhere the arch down, leaving about 1/4 of an inch at the bottom of the floral paper. I still need to add foam dimension behind the sentiment, using just the small foam squares. I'll make sure to get good coverage so there isn't one area that sags. Remove the release paper and attach the sentiment at the bottom of the card. I'll make sure to put it low enough so I still have space for the bride and also the bells. Then the bride will go above it. The very bottom of her dress will sit slightly on top of the word wedding, but it's not covering up the sentiment. I used a mix of the small and large foam squares on the back of the gnome. After removing the release paper, I'll adhere her in place. For the bells with the ribbons, decided to glue those down and not pop them up with foam dimension. The very top area of the bow will go off the edge of the card, but it's not too much and it should still fit inside an A2 size envelope. If that bothers you, you could always trim it off. I know the envelopes that I use, it won't be a problem at all. If you're looking for a great envelope option for A2 size cards, I'll add a link in the description box. They're from Ohuhu. For embellishments, I'm adding 3 small purple hearts, and I use Jaded Blossom's original Embellishment Cluster die set, just the smallest size hearts. I'll put 2 hearts on the right side of the gnome and 1 on the left side. The Embellishment Cluster die sets are still some of my favorite from Jaded Blossom, and they have quite a few options now, although I do tend to reach for the original set the most. So there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out. The gnome looks so happy for her wedding day. For card design number 2, I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Cards TV. It's sketch number 11. This card features more pattern paper from Carta's Floral number 3 collection, using this beautiful floral design for the background. For the 2 small triangles, I'm using some green tone-on-tone paper. Has a very light lattice design on it. For the image panel, I selected the light blue and white polka dot pattern paper. And this is where I'll add one of the gnomes. I'll layer the background and also the image panel on some purple cardstock. Now I'll add the blue and white panel on the center of the card, and I did cut this quite a bit larger than what's indicated on the card sketch. I needed it large enough to fit one of the gnomes. The blue polka dot paper is 3 inches by 4 1/4 inches. And the purple cardstock layer is an additional 1/8 of an inch. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. Since my first card featured the Gnome Bride, this card will feature the Gnome Groom. For that very background piece, and all of this will be covered up, I use some dark gray cardstock. For the gnome's hat, I use black cardstock and light purple cardstock for the band. There's an individual piece that has the front suit, legs, and feet. I use that same dark gray cardstock. And that will be the color of the gnome's suit. The pants, it's a slightly lighter gray cardstock color, kind of hard to tell. And for the gnome shoes, I use black cardstock. Now the design of the Groom gnome has his hand sticking out. If you'd prefer the option of the arms reaching in or just adding the hands, you can simply trim off the arm with the hand on that background piece. With the other arm or hand options, you could have the Groom hold different objects, like the box with the ring or one of the large rings. Before adhering that front part of the gnome's body, I need to attach his sleeves and also the hands. For the boy gnome, the only skin tone cardstock you need is for the nose and the hands. And for most of the gnomes in this video, the skin tone cardstock I'm using is from P13. They have a skin tone paper pad, and Jaded Blossom does sell it in their shop. For the very first card I made, the bride gnome, the cardstock color I used is from Concord and 9th. It's the nectar color. So after adding the hands and the sleeves for the jacket, I'll attach that front portion with the gnome's body, legs, and shoes. For the collar of the jacket, I'm using the same light purple cardstock, same color I use for the band on the hat. Before attaching the beard, I'll adhere the hat in place, and that top curve of the beard matches the bottom curve of the hat, so they all line up perfectly. So there's the hat in place. Now I'll put glue on the back of the beard, and I'm going with a blonde gnome. Once the beard is down, I'll add the mustache. And the mustache die is not included on this set. It's from the original boy gnome set. This gnome will have the larger nose, and I will pop it up using more foam dimension. I'll remove the release paper and adhere it at the top of the mustache. And the final step for the Groom gnome is to give him his bow tie. It's kind of funny, but to put it in the correct placement, it needs to be attached on top of the bottom of the beard. I will pop him up using foam dimension, and I added those off screen. Decided to use some black foam squares since it's a dark colored background. I'll remove the release paper and add the gnome on the blue and white polka dot panel. For a sentiment, I stamped and cut out congrats. It'll go on the right side of the gnome by his hat. The very right side of the sentiment will go off of the blue and white polka dot paper. So I will add one foam square on that area. And to keep it at the same level, I also added a small scrap piece of cardstock on the left side of the sentiment. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere the sentiment in place. For embellishments, I'm using the rest of the small hearts that I cut out using the Embellishment Cluster die set. Put 2 above the sentiment congrats and 1 on the left side of the gnome. The Embellishment Cluster die set does include 3 different sizes for all of the images, but I'm only using the smallest size heart. For a final finishing touch, I'm using a white gel pen, adding highlights on the gnome's nose, his bow tie, hat, shoes, and some teeny tiny dots on each of the hearts. I did use a scrap piece of cardstock to get that white gel pen flowing nicely. So there is my finished card featuring the gnome Groom. I have a couple more cards to share using the new release, but I did not record the process. So here's a boy gnome wearing the top hat. I used the original gnome die set, so he's sitting and you can see his feet. For the background, the smaller arch, I used some pattern paper from Sunny Studio. It's a very light gray with white stars, and I stenciled on that piece using the Diamond Gemstone stencil. After inking it up, I added a little bit of shimmer with Distress Spritz. It's the Salvaged Patina color. I put 2 of the rings on the left side and added the sentiment, wishing you a lifetime of love and gnomes. And of course, I had to make a card featuring the bride and groom. For the very background, I did use some pattern paper and then stenciled on it with the fancy swirl stencil. And to get that lovely shimmery look, I use more Distress Spritz. This is the Mowed Lawn color. I love how you can have the boy and girl gnome holding hands. The bride, I use more of the white shimmer cardstock, but for those top layers, I use a very light pink pattern paper from the Floral No. 3 collection. Added the sentiment, I now pronounce you Gnome and Gnome. So you can easily fit the bride and groom on a horizontal A2 size card. My final project features the new MDF Arch with Stand, and I created a fun scene, and inspiration for this scene was from a card I made, I believe, last year. It features Jaded Blossom's card dies, the off-road vehicle. So I decided to make a scene to fit on the Arch MDF. I have a fun pink off-road vehicle, the little gnome driving it, and she just came from the tulip field, so she has a bunch of orange tulips next to her. She broke the rules and was driving through the tulip fields. You're not supposed to do that. So she got in the mud, splashed mud all over the place, but she's happy because she got to go and pick some lovely tulips. To attach the arch scene, I put Barely Art glue on the back, and I'll adhere it on the MDF piece. You can see the 2 little stand pieces. Since this is a larger piece, simply press them in place, and now I have a fun decor. And I almost forgot, there is a die set, so you can add a little decorative piece to the top of the stands. I'll show you that here in a moment. If you like the look of wood, you can leave it as is, but it is fun to have the option. Here's the die set that's available. It's called MDF Standing Base die, and there are 2 bases welded together on one piece, which is perfect since this MDF includes 2 stands. I decided to use this same dark brown cardstock to match that mud look. But I've used other cardstock colors. I have a penguin and used some white pearlescent cardstock. So it looks like the penguin is standing in some snow. Now here's another look at the 5 projects I made using Jaded Blossom's brand new wedding release. This is a really cute release, perfect if you need to make some wedding cards. But there are also products in the release that you could use for non-wedding cards. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Jaded Blossom never disappoints with their fun releases, and I think the wedding gnomes are a great new addition. I also wanted to show you how I store my Jaded Blossom stencils. I've had a few people ask me, so I pulled out my stencil binder. This is made by Doodlebug Design. It's their 6x8 mini album, and the inserts I have inside are the 6x8 protectors. What's really nice about their protectors, they open on the side and not the top. So if you accidentally turn your album upside down, you're not going to lose all your stencils. The album did come with some other inserts. I bought refill packs, and the album also had some cardboard pieces. I pulled all of those out and just kept the polka dot on the front and back. I have 15 page protectors in my album, and that seems to be the perfect amount. And you can fit 2 stencils in each protector. So 30 stencils in an album. And since Jaded Blossom has so many amazing stencils, I have a second album basically filled. I think there's maybe 1 page open. There's the little label piece on the side, and I still need to make a label for my albums. I still have my stencils in the original plastic packaging. If you remove those, you may be able to add another page protector or 2. So here's the refills I bought. It's the mini album 6x8 protectors from Doodlebug Design. And if you are interested, I'll add a link for the album and the page protectors. And the albums are available in other colors. I decided to stick with the teal since that's Jaded Blossom's color. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.